Good morning and welcome to this initial podcast for the PLAN30852, 60852 Green Infrastructure and Sustainable Cities module. What I'm going to do is just give you a brief introduction to this week's lecture and a slight overview of the module itself. And what I would do is that each week I'll do a little 3 to 5 minute podcast before the lecture so you get a flavour of what's going on. So firstly, thank you all for choosing the module. I hope you'll enjoy it. It is a module which aims to work across disciplines, so it's not just about being a planning or environment module, but it draws on the foundations of a number of different disciplines, be it from urban design, architecture, environmental management, landscape economics, landscape planning, and then more regular spatial planning. But what you will find is that a lot of the foundations come from this interface of planning, environment and landscape, and we'll refer to those things on numerous occasions over the course of the 12 weeks of the module. And what the module aims to do is to look at how we interact as people, as planners, as designers, as environmental managers, as urban economists, at the way in which the landscape facilitates different ways to value, to judge, to interact, and to attribute functionality to our urban areas. And whilst it will predominantly focus on urban ideas, we will also touch on broader issues of landscape. So we'll talk about GI at a landscape scale, we'll talk about water management and catchment dynamics, but we'll also look at the minutiae of how different urban spaces, be it in Manchester, be it in London, actually can influence the way in which people look at and use the places around them. And to support this, we will also go into quite a lot of detail about the policy environment for green infrastructure, because it's ever changing given the political nature of the UK and elsewhere. We are looking at how different left or right wing leaning groups actually look at the landscape as being both a positive or something to actually make money out of, and we'll talk about how policy for specific developments, be it the London Olympic Park or the Sabarmati riverfront redevelopment in Ahmedabad in India, has led to a certain type of GI investment which is both seen as positive and negative in some cases. And to coincide with that discussion, we will talk about who gets to decide what happens for green infrastructure. So we'll talk extensively about the role of stakeholders and the way in which policymakers and decision makers are influencing what happens in our urban environments, but also the way in which developers, economists, academics, and importantly the general public and residents can actually shape the way in which our landscapes are deemed to be functional and valuable. And we'll go into quite a lot of detail about that in the field trip in Liverpool. And so what we will discuss in the module is that GI is not a single entity. It doesn't just mean one thing. It is based on a lot of very, sometimes quite abstract ideas about functionality, but also it can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And so we'll talk explicitly about how context is an important aspect of developing green infrastructure and developing good green infrastructure. And to facilitate this discussion, we'll draw on a number of different examples from the UK, Europe, and more international, so the US, Canada, India and China. And hopefully you'll be able to bring your own experiences of the places that you're from into this discussion as well. Because one thing I would hope from the module is that you all are happy to ask questions and to bring in your own experiences to look at the ways in which GI in your own country or your own hometown actually influences your use of it or your understanding of it. And so one thing that will come out of this module is that there is no single answer to what green infrastructure is. There are a set of principles and parameters which we'll work with, but the way in which we contextualize, the way in which we think about GI is all very, very personalised and locationally specific. So if you're born and raised in the UK, you'll have potentially one view. If you're born and raised in somewhere like Germany or Sweden, maybe another. And that's part of the the positives of this module is that we will be looking to align these different experiences from different locations into our understanding. And so that will bring together ideas from architecture, from urban design, environmental management, planning, landscape, and to a lesser extent real estate in terms of the economics of green infrastructure. So that's just a brief introduction to the module. I'll see you all on Thursday morning, and hopefully you will all enjoy the module. If you have any questions, please do ask during the lectures or come and see me during my office hours. See you all on Thursday morning. Bye bye.